Thank you for joining us today on another podcast. We really appreciate you clicking on this video and taking time. We ask you that you would stay and watch. Like, enjoy this podcast, enjoy this hangout with us. We're going to be talking about something interesting today. We're going to be doing a short film review.
Short film review?
Yes.
I feel like I want like a horn, like a, like, that horn? Yeah, like short film review.
That's like a Jamaican anthem thing. All right, but we're going to be doing a very, very cool short film. Yep. It has a couple 100,000 views on YouTube. I don't know where else it is.
No. When I watched it had 800.
800 views?
No, 800,000. So
it has quite a chunk.
Almost a million.
Almost a million views on YouTube. It hasn't been out that long. It's only been out like a couple weeks.
Yeah. It said a month when I watched it.
All right, a month.
Earlier.
I just have no sense of time or direction.
A couple weeks.
Numbers are all off. Anyway, it's called Rebooted, right? Mm-hmm. Rebooted, not reboot. Rebooted.
Yes.
Rebooted. We are going to put the link in the description, and we will play a few clips throughout this podcast to show you some of the visuals so you have an idea of what we're talking about. However, what was your initial reaction of this? Because I will tell you what mine was. Oh, boy.
I liked it. I think it throws, not talking about the meaning, but tying with the meaning, it threw it back to clay animation, which is something that you don't see a lot of.
What do you call it? Stop motion.
Stop motion
animation.
Stop motion.
It is kind of clay,
yeah.
But he wasn't a clay character. He was built, but it was stop motion animation. If you don't know what stop motion is, it's pretty much miniature scale characters. You could use clay, or you could use like rigged things. In this case, it was a skeleton. There's like a little mini rigged skeleton. You put it on a green screen. This is the old way of doing animation.
So before we get into it, what was your reaction just watching it?
Oh my gosh. As soon as I saw those opening shots of him building the skeleton and then him starting to do like pictures of it and whatnot, I was like, this is brilliant. I love it so much. It took them over 6 months to do this short film. And there's a whole crew of people working on it. I watched some of the behind the scenes, just doing all, because they actually did the stop motion for this character for the whole thing. They had a specialist who did all of the cinematography for the miniature character for the stop motion. That takes dedication to say, okay, for like an over 10-minute short film, everything, our main character who's in every single shot.
A lot of editing.
Well, the thing is, the editing actually wasn't that much. It was a lot of taking pictures.
Yeah.
What took them the longest was doing every single movement and facial expression. I think they said there was 11 expressions this character had, and it was just really in the top of the head. So they would just replace the top of their head, and so it make him look like he's
and
frowning, the eyes and everything, because that's where all the emotion was, the forming of the eyes and whatnot, because it's a skeleton. You don't have a whole lot to work with, so really the top part of the eyes is really what moves and shows the expression. But pretty much give us the synopsis that you took from it, because there's no dialogue in the film. They decided pretty early, from what I understand, the director was like, I want to actually make this a silent film, so there wasn't any dialogue.
It brought back something. I mean, not brought back, but like for me, it was like not going with the flow of like how video is evolving, and sometimes things become obsolete.
Yeah,
and him remembering a time when he was like really popular and everybody loved that film he was in, but now it's obsolete and they're doing like a lot more animation, and he's obsolete in that way. Essentially,
it was taking a character that's like
it almost reminds me of, I don't want to reference it just to this, but like the film, what is it, Hugo?
Yeah.
Johnny Depp made,
Johnny Depp produced it.
It's about a character he's a clockmaker now, or like he makes clocks. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But he used to be in films, and he was so popular, and then what was it? World War One came along, and everybody saw the violence from World War One, so they wanted more violent type films, and they were desensitized to World War One and everything that went on, that they got bored of his movies, so he basically died out and became obsolete because he didn't evolve with the time. I mean, he couldn't, because he was dealing with World War One and everything like that. It made me think of that a little bit with the storyline, but it was its own thing. I don't want to clamp it. Clump it together with that, because it was its own thing too.
Pretty much imagine characters that was used, like animation techniques for characters living in the real world and trying to get jobs on film sets and in the movies. So in this case, it's a really not very realistic looking skeleton that was done in an older, like almost Super 8 looking kind of film, really older film, and it was like his big debut. He was created, and then he was put in this older film. It was stop frame animation, and so each frame you had to take a picture, and then you combine them all in speed, and so it's very choppy, but that's the best way they could do animation at the time. And there's actually other characters in it. They have an animatronic dinosaur, kind of throwing back to Jurassic Park, and then they also had the early days of
was
animation.
it throwing back to Jurassic Park?
I think it was. Maybe it was something before Jurassic Park, but Jurassic Park, the first one, had a lot of animatronic dinosaurs, and so it was kind of throwing back to that. They even did the shot where it kind of peers around the head, and that was like a shot by shot from the first Jurassic Park, when it peers out of the trees, and then he turns his head, and he's been snuck up on by the Velociraptor. Is that what it's called?
T-Rex.
No, not T-Rex.
Yes,
Velociraptor.
Velociraptor.
Anyways, and then there's also like picture animation, like picture by picture drawing, old Disney style cartoon animation. In it, there's like a character that is made up of like a sheet of paper drawn on, and then there's also like just a regular rubber suit for a person, you know what I mean? So it's like an empty rubber suit that has like a personality and everything. It's very interesting. It's like these are characters in this world, in the real world, trying to get film jobs, but they can't get it because they have all this new technology and all these new ways of making things looking more realistic. And so instead of just like, it's like taking the ideas of how film used to work with animation and then making characters out of those ways, and then trying to put them in the real world, and the way that they were animated makes up their identity. And so now that they're obsolete, they can't get jobs.
It's kind of ironic too, though, because I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the evolution of film in general. They were talking about how you used to go to the movie theaters and watch stuff. You used to watch TV. You used to watch VHS, and then now everything's all digital. Most people don't go to theaters anymore.
Yeah.
And some people still do go to theaters, but
a lot of people go to theaters.
People watch a lot of like Netflix, Hulu, like streaming now. And
they watch that daily.
They were talking about it in regards to just everything that's going on right now, and saying, is this going to kill theaters? Just
like, because people don't want to go anymore.
Yeah. Even when like there's not really a virus anymore, there's no more COVID, are people still going to be like, oh, I want to go watch a movie in the theater? No, they're going to have like in the back of their mind say, I don't know, there's so much germs in that, and is it worth paying this money to go watch this movie?
Yeah, when they're going to be able to see it at some point anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I hate to see it.
There's a lot of money in it still, so I don't know that they will kill their efforts to try to do it.
I don't think it's going to die completely, but, and I hate to say this because of how I enjoy just going to the theater. We talked about this in a couple of podcasts ago. I was like, I miss going to the theaters. I said that.
Yeah.
Because that's something I enjoy. I love watching on the big screen and having that experience. But to me, I think it is taking a step forward and saying it is dying a little bit. I feel like there's some way they're going to be able to do it. I mean, there's so many films that because of this, that everything that's going on, they're like, we're just going to re-release this, not bring it to the theaters.
Yeah.
There's been so many films that way.
But I will say there's a lot of money in the streaming world right now.
Yeah.
But there's also still a crap ton of money in the theaters. And unless they open it back up and people just don't show up, they're going to still invest in, because they're making movies for that theater experience.
Yeah. I heard a statistic that someone brought up. They said an actor that's just brand new that is introduced into a film that goes into the theater, if they're not really popular before the movie, like they have like 100,000 subscribers on Instagram. Like they were comparing it to Instagram.
You keep saying subscribers for Instagram.
Or followers on Instagram. But if someone has about 100 followers on Instagram and they are in a movie that goes to the theater,
yeah,
they probably are gonna. Or they brought up a real scenario. I don't remember who it was or what was the context, but this was a real actor that was in a movie that went to theater. He came out with like about 1 million followers after the movie came out, and he got popular.
Yeah.
Someone who was the same way but got put on a movie that came out on Netflix had about 2.5 million followers on Instagram afterwards, because so many people more watch from Netflix.
Streaming.
I would say yes, but I think that's also inflated with the generation.
Yeah.
The generation who are watching Netflix, the generation who are on Instagram.
Also, the thing is, our generation and even generations, a few people younger than us and a little bit older than us, their first thought is when they see a new actor on screen, doesn't matter if they're in theaters, doesn't matter if they're on a streaming service, they see a new actor in a show and they like that actor, they're automatically going to be like, I'm going to follow him on social media.
Yeah.
They're like, I can keep up with them on a personal level in their personal life, because that's their first thought. People like our parents, or even, a generation before us, they're not thinking I'm going to follow them on social media. They're just like, okay, I'll wait till their next movie comes out and I'll see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we think of things totally different. So it makes sense.
Yeah, our generation is different, but that's still weird to think about. Someone who was on Netflix got about double the person who was in a movie in the theater.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. It shows... I do know that Netflix, even in the past couple years, has become a monster to reckon with.
Let's. I know we're talking about this and it's interesting, but let's go back to the short film. I don't want to.
I almost derailed.
I almost
forgot.
The reason why I brought it up is because it's ironic. They're talking about an old type of filming and how it's going obsolete in the short film, and they're on Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, they're not on Netflix. They're on YouTube.
Okay.
They premiered it on YouTube for a younger generation. I mean,
yeah,
even YouTube, like the majority of people who watch YouTube are a younger viewership. Netflix, I would say Netflix is a little bit older than YouTube, but YouTube is majority younger, really young. I mean, even YouTube creators who have more adult type like videos, they're not doing great on the platform because YouTube can't figure out a way to monetize or to give
brands don't
like
that YouTube allows their content to be advertised on adult related things unless they're an adult related product.
Well, I also think that's because there's a lot of younger people that watch YouTube, but
that's also why a lot of the more adult shows are podcasts.
Yeah.
And the ones that were adult shows are cleaning up their videos. You know what I mean? That aren't podcasts. Because people in the podcast world, especially these comedians, they aren't going to stop saying what they want. They aren't going to clean up their content. So as long as YouTube doesn't kick them off the platform, they're just going to go and get their own sponsors and their own ads, and they're going to get paid the top dollar for those. They don't care if you run a monetized ad at the beginning of the video or not.
Yeah.
You know?
So going back to the short film again, don't want to keep derailing. It's kind of ironic that they brought it to a newer platform, and premiered it rather than trying to take it to like a film festival.
I'm sure this short film was put on film festivals.
You think so?
For sure. I mean, the director, it doesn't seem like he's super well known, but he has over 100,000 subscribers on his channel, and he doesn't have that many videos. I'm pretty sure this channel has more videos than he does.
Yeah.
Maybe around the same amount. But he doesn't have that many, and this has been the first thing he's posted in, I think, like 3 years on YouTube.
I didn't look at his stuff.
I was looking at his stuff yesterday and today, and it's very interesting. He's done a couple things that's been like multi-part series short films. He's done some interesting stuff, but this was very good, and you can tell he spent a lot of time on this. Very well thought through. I love the way it ended, because it didn't end by saying, like, this is, we need to feel sorry for, this is like, we have to go back to this style of doing things. But it caused you to have pause and think like, okay, let's go beyond how we feel about this character, and let's see what this character represents. And this character represents a whole season, a whole period of time where people like me and you were limited by technology. If we were born in that time and we were interested in filmmaking, then that's a whole, like, imagine us spending our whole lives making films, and that was the kind of animation we had. And then all of a sudden everyone kicks it out because it's not as cool, It makes you pause and think about, okay, we have respect for people who spent a lot of time, who's creative in their limited fashion, and it's not saying we're going to bring it back. It's not saying we have to be like, blow it out of proportion, but it's a very fun short film. And that's what it caused me to think about. It caused me to think about, okay, what if I was born during that time? What if I was a filmmaker who felt just like this character? And you brought this up to me before. You were trying to translate the film. You said like that you thought that character, the skeleton, represented the guy at the beginning who created him and was making those pictures, who's doing the animation. Tell me what you thought about that.
Well, I mean, in the film, he kind of looks at the picture and he's like remembering that
the
character.
Skeleton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, the skeleton was remembering that guy. I mean, his work that he created, and I guess they didn't say this because there's no words, but it made it seem like he was gone.
Yeah.
He wasn't around anymore, which means he might have died, or
probably, yeah.
He was an older gentleman, but his work is dead. I mean, you think of people who once, like in 100 years or 300 years, are they going to remember your work?
Yeah.
Are they going to watch your content? Are they still going to have YouTube? Are they still...
This was kind of a tip of the hat to the people who worked to build a legacy in the old days, but are so easily forgotten in today's world.
Yeah.
It hurts me a little bit to think of that.
I hear that.
People like us, we want to entertain people. Mm-hmm. That's the purpose. We want to have fun in our career, and we enjoy this. But also just think about your career not leaving a legacy for the next generation because technology progresses.
Well, that's a depressing note to end on.
Exactly. We're not ending it. I want to finish this thought.
Okay.
But that's why I think this short film is beautiful. Because it caused us to think about this. We wouldn't be thinking about this if we hadn't seen this short film, and then we decided to talk about this like we are on this podcast. Mm-hmm. And people watching, leave a comment, let us know that you're watching, please. Because it really causes us to think these people worked so hard, and that was their career. And back then, it was a lot harder to get into filmmaking than it is today.
Oh, definitely.
The equipment was more expensive. It was freaking near impossible to get your hands on anything to put a piece of film together. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? it was even harder to get on a film set or to be involved with something that anyone would ever see, you know?
Yeah.
And so we live in such an awesome time where you just have to have strategy and be persistent and you'll make it. Back then there was actual limitations, and it was so many people like us wouldn't even have opportunities probably, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so people that worked so hard on this outdated technology worked hard to build a legacy, and then we're so easily forgetting that. But this short film does a beautiful thing by bringing that out and allowing us to be able to see that and remember it, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Makes me sad.
So that's this week's episode. We want to talk about the short film. Go watch it. Go support this creator. I mean, he's like us. We just are making short films.
Well, he's better than us.
He's better than us.
He's a lot better than us.
Well,
at this point, he's a lot better than us. I'm not gonna try to act like I'm on his level.
Well, but we've done some projects that are
We've done projects.
decent.
We've made short films like this guy has.
Yeah.
But he's doing something. He's a few years in front of us.
Yeah.
So we respect you.
Go watch
you
his
ever watch this.
content. I mean, it's worth watching at least.
At least a short film. Definitely. We'll leave it in the description again so you can go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Thanks for subscribing.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, please do.
And have a good day.